The courtroom smelled of floor wax and old wood, a scent that hadn't changed since my grandfather sat in these same benches. Sheriff Roy Vance sat at the defense table, his tan uniform pressed so sharp the creases looked like they could cut glass. He didn't look like a man facing a federal lawsuit. He looked like a king waiting for his coronation. When our eyes met, he didn't look away, he just offered a slow, cold smirk and adjusted the heavy gold signet ring on his finger. To everyone in Oakhaven, Roy was law and order personified. To me, he was just a man who had forgotten that the ground beneath his boots didn't belong to his badge. He leaned over to his attorney, whispering something that made them both chuckle softly. They honestly believed this was over. They thought a dirt farmer from the valley had walked into a slaughterhouse. Vance's lawyer stood up, his voice echoing off the high ceilings as he presented their final motion to dismiss. He painted me as a disgruntled, stubborn obstructionist who was weaponizing frivolous litigation to disrupt vital county infrastructure. He held up copies of the county survey, pointing aggressively to the bold red lines that supposedly marked the new eastern boundary of the county road, right through 60 acres of my prime bottomland. According to their documents, my family had been encroaching on public property for 40 years. The judge, a tired man named Miller who was 6 months away from retirement, nodded along, his eyes heavy. Vance shifted in his chair, crossing his boots at the ankle, the picture of absolute, untouchable authority. He had the county records, the signed affidavits from the State Highway Commission, and a badge that gave him the right to enforce them. He thought he had squeezed me into a corner where I had no choice but to fold. But I just sat there, my hands folded on top of a faded, green canvas binder. Inside that binder was something Roy Vance didn't know existed. It wasn't a modern county printout, and it wasn't a digital rendering from the state database he'd spent the last 18 months altering. It was a hand-bound, field artillery survey ledger from 1972, stamped with the insignia of the United States Army Corps of Engineers. My father had kept it when he came home from Da Nang, back when he took over the farm and realized the county lines were being drawn by bureaucrats who had never pulled a briar or dug a ditch. That ledger held the absolute, unalterable baseline coordinates for every square inch of the valley, verified by military-grade transit equipment before the county even had a zoning office. And more importantly, it held the original deed signatures that proved Roy Vance's grandfather had sold the easement rights back to my family to clear a gambling debt. The trouble had started 18 months ago, on a crisp Tuesday morning in October. I was out by the old creek bed, replacing a rotted cedar fence post, when the sheriff's cruiser pulled up the gravel driveway. Vance didn't get out right away. He let the engine idle, letting the heavy rumble fill the quiet valley air, a classic intimidation tactic he used on anyone he deemed beneath him. When he finally stepped out, his aviator glasses caught the morning sun. He didn't say hello. He didn't ask how the harvest was looking. He just walked up to the fence line, tapped the cedar post with his heavy flashlight, and told me I was built 10 feet too far west. "You've got until Friday to pull these posts back, Frank," Vance had said that morning, his voice dripping with an easy, terrifying casualness. I told him calmly that this fence had stood in the exact same spot since 1974, checked and verified. He just laughed, a short, barking sound, and told me the county was widening the arterial road, and my sentimentality wasn't going to block progress. When Friday came and my fence was still standing, the escalation began. First came the formal warnings, printed on official county letterhead, citing me for zoning violations. Then came the anonymous tips to the agricultural board, claiming my runoff was contaminating the local creek. When those didn't stick, the fines started piling up, $500 a day for obstructing a public right-of-way. Vance thought he was suffocating me. He started parking his cruiser at the edge of my property line at dusk, leaving his high beams flooding my living room window while my wife and I tried to eat dinner. He even stopped my tractor on the public road, fabricating a story about a broken tail light just to issue a citation in front of my neighbors. It was a calculated campaign of public embarrassment, designed to break my spirit and force a settlement. But while Vance was busy playing the tyrant, I was busy playing the historian. Every time he stepped onto my land, my hidden trail cameras recorded it. Every fine he issued was logged, cataloged, and cross-referenced with the state agricultural statutes. I never argued, never raised my voice, and never gave him the satisfaction of seeing me angry. The climax of his arrogance happened 3 months ago at the town hall meeting. In front of 50 local farmers, Vance stood at the podium and displayed a digitized map of the county line, openly mocking my resistance. He called me a stubborn relic holding onto land that didn't belong to me, laughing as he said some folks just didn't understand how modern mapping worked. That night, I went home, opened my father's old green canvas binder, and found the exact coordinates corresponding to the benchmarks Vance had displayed. The modern digital maps the county used had been subtly shifted by exactly 12 feet, a deliberate alteration made right around the time a major commercial developer had approached the county about building a logistics hub just past my ridge. Back in the courtroom, Vance's lawyer finally sat down, looking entirely satisfied. The judge looked over at me. "Mr. Miller, do you have anything to present before I rule on this motion?" I stood up slowly, smoothing the front of my suit jacket, and walked to the podium with the green ledger. I didn't make a grand speech. I simply handed copies of a 1972 military survey to the bailiff to pass to the judge and the defense. "Your Honor," I said, my voice steady and quiet in the silent room. What the defense calls a modern survey is actually a digitally altered file. This ledger contains the original United States Army Corps of Engineers benchmark data from 1972, signed by the federal surveyor and the sheriff's own grandfather, relinquishing all county claims to that easement. The courtroom went dead silent. The judge adjusted his glasses, his eyes widening as he read the certified federal document and compared it to the fraudulent county map. Vance's smirk vanished instantly, his face turned a deep, mottled purple as his lawyer frantically began flipping through their files. By the time the state investigator I had secretly summoned stood up from the back gallery to confirm the authenticity of the ledger, the trap had snapped shut. The judge denied the motion, ordered an immediate federal audit of the county land records, and referred Vance to the state attorney general for official misconduct. Walking out of the courthouse into the quiet afternoon sun, I looked back at the valley. True authority isn't found in a badge or a loud voice, it rests quietly in the truth, waiting for those patient enough to unearth it.